Hello there, Gary's Fishing Channel. Glad to know we've got one on here so far. Is that Rob there at Gary's Fishing, or is that Garrett? I'm going to wait before I get started here. Let a few more people join. So, a couple minutes here. Just going to be hanging out. Looks like maybe Garrett or Rob is here, and that's the only one I've seen comment so far. This is week number 2. Got quite a bit planned for tonight. Luckily, I got all of my devices figured out, so hopefully tonight goes much better than last week. 8:02 now, so probably wait till about 8:03 or 8:04 to get going. We are going to talk about cattle a little bit. We're going to talk about farming, and we're going to talk about white-tailed deer, which is my favorite time of year here in the fall. We're in the second week of deer season so far here in archery season in Oklahoma. Gary's Fishing Channel, I want to make sure, can you hear me okay? Is my audio going correct? There I see Fast Draw. Hope you're doing well, Rick. Rick, I don't see a response out of Gary's Fishing Channel yet. Is my audio working okay on you guys' end? I hope everybody out there got a little bit of rain this week. A little bit of rain and cooler weather going to make these fall crops get started and take right off. Audio's great, maybe too loud. Interesting. I don't think there's anything I can do about turning it down on my end, Rick. I'm glad to know it's working, though. We're about 3 minutes in. I'm going to wait and see if we get a few more on here before I take off. Personally, I have no idea how many's on here. I've just seen a few comments so far. So I know that it is working. I haven't seen anything else out of Gary's Fishing Channel. I hope you're still there. I know you guys like to fish quite a bit, Rob and Garrett both. Hopefully the fishing went well for you this summer. I didn't go quite as much as I have in the past. Lots of baseball games that we went to, and we did go fishing. No, we probably went to the lake 4 or 5 times, went fishing, camped out a few times, fished a little bit in Oklahoma and a little bit in Kansas. Had some good times. All right, we're right up here in northwest Oklahoma, this area in between Enid, Fairview, Okeen. This week we had about an inch to inch and a half of rain pretty much in this entire area, which we darn sure needed. Yeah, Rick, I see there is more rain chances coming Friday and Saturday. That would be great. Hello there, Dakota, Fear Not Farm. Thanks for tuning in. We had about an inch of rain, inch and a half, all over this 30-mile area here this last week. Helped cool it down just a little bit. Many people had already planted their crops. Army worms had chewed some of it off. Some people put some chemical down to try and take care of the army worms. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I chose to wait a couple more weeks before I started my planting. About half of my crops are up right now, and this inch to inch and a half of rain we got will bring the rest of it up. Like I said, inch to inch and a half. Besides that inch to inch and a half, it sure made me get the itching to get out to the deer stand. I headed out to the deer stand. Let me think. Tonight is Wednesday. It must have been Monday evening. and I was all kinds of excited. 20 to 25 degrees cooler than we had been. Light rain. Rain was, fortunately for us, the weatherman missed it. The rain was supposed to be dwindling down, and it continued. So I sat in the stand, waiting on deer to come in, watching it rain. Great place just to sit there and let your mind go at ease. Hello there, Jonathan. Good to see you in here. Hoping you do better with hunting than you did fishing this year. Yeah, thanks. Hit that like button. Yes, I remember that part. Fear not farm. Thanks a lot, Dakota. So I've got some different clips in here that I want to share with you guys. The wheat was looking good in a few places down by Bison. Yes, it sure is. I've seen some of it. There's some of it right here within just miles of my house that looks pretty good already also. But I've got some different videos here to share with you guys of what's been going on in this area. So part of the stuff that I'm going to show you is, remember last week I said if you're watching, send in video if you've already taken a deer, send in pictures if you've already taken them. Once again, I said I'll give you my email if you need it. All you got to do is request, and I can share some of that info for you guys who do not put out content, but wouldn't mind seeing yourself on here. So, got about 4 different people statewide who sent me things from southeast Oklahoma up here to northwest Oklahoma. I've got some fall cows calving. After my planting was done, my fall calvers, I've got a couple different pastures of fall calving cows, as you can see right here. I'll spend all fall feeding them till that wheat pasture, rye pasture is big enough to let them graze on. Right now they're running on some Bermuda grass, and I'll just feed them grain about every other day. We get into some freezing weather, I'll give them some hay. I've also weaned some calves. Got some calves shut up in the pens. I've weaned a couple different pastures so far. You might see there's a couple of those Speckle Park Angus cross calves that are right there at the feed bunks. I've worked them, gave them all 1 round of shots so far. Luckily haven't had any health trouble with anything. And I want to show you those Speckle Parks back whenever they were calves. Looking for it here. Give me just a minute. That's what they looked like whenever they was babies, and I put out a video about some of it back then. But the things have grown pretty well. They're a little over 6 months old whenever I weaned them, close to 7 months old. Rob Sims, yes, they do look delicious. I don't know if I will end up feeding them out. I don't know if I'll end up selling them, but I had some people, whenever they were born, of course, they were asking me about if I'd be interested in selling them as a herd bull or anything. But right now, they're still fully intact. They've been weaned from their mamas about 2 weeks, and doing well. I've got a couple more pastures to wean. Probably going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks here. Everybody knows the cattle market is outstanding, and that is, if you're buying them, I guess it's not a very good time. If you're selling them, it's one heck of a time. I've never seen the market the way it is. Last week, I mentioned to you about some of the drones that I had. Fear not farm, you was about to say that. Serious dockage going on with that color. You're correct. Anytime I've sold those speckled calves, they can be the same size. They can be 50 pounds bigger, 50 pounds smaller. They always sort them off, and they'll bring $10 to $20 a hundredweight less than the others. So I've kept some of them, sold to people for butcher. They're great. They're Angus cross with that Speckle Park. Somewhere there in the low 60s on the percentage, of carcass weight. So they grow just as well as the others. Just got a lot more spots on them, and like Rob said, they do look delicious. Back to some of the last week, I showed you some of these drones, or had the drones, but I wasn't able to show you any video. This is the Whitetail that I bought. Last night I had cattle out, so I used this Whitetail. I found about 6 or 7 head of the cattle. This Whitetail has a spotlight on it. You can angle it whichever way you need. It's got a couple of different cameras, one of them being the thermal. So last night I had 5 or 6 cows out in the road, had one out on the pasture who had a new baby, and I was looking all over the place for the rest of them. I flew the drone, found them about 3/4 of a mile from home. They were out just relaxing, and I flew the drone over that area, was able to get them found. I know I've got some drone video I wanted to show. That's not of last night, but it is. Here is one that is a baby. You know, I was saying last week, you can fly that drone out there if you've got a cow calving. You don't want to drive out there and disturb the whole herd. You can see I flew that drone, and I flew the smaller drone up to this baby, made it stand up. That way I don't drive out there and disrupt the entire herd. This was back in late February, early March. Ground was frozen. You can see Mr. Wobbly Legs there heading back up to his mama. And I was, you know, 1/4 of a mile from them. So that's one of the benefits of having those drones. I don't drive back out there and disrupt the entire herd. I generally don't get quite that close to the baby calves, but I wanted to see that one get up. And as you can see, he headed straight to mama and went to nurse him. Here is one, if you look right in the center of the screen, that is trees. I turned my spotlight on. I had a baby calf that I couldn't find this spring and was able to get the calf up and get it back to mama. You see some of the trees back there in the background. I might try and play that one more time. It went a little bit quicker than I expected. So there he is, turned the spotlight on, and then got him right back out to mama. So I've also got the thermal drone I've used. You know, that's out there in the timber and the grass. Of course, it's deer you're seeing right there. Deer, and this is all at night. I have not flown these thermal drones really much in the daylight at all, but I run it in black and white mode. I had some people ask me last week about the color of them. That might have been on Facebook. You can put it in numerous different colors, but that's the one that works for my eyes the best. And then this little Mini Pro, which you can see is about half the size of this. It's probably less than half the size of the Autel, but this is a DJI Mini Pro 4, and that's what I was flying around quite often around the cows, trying to find one if they were out calving and not having to drive my pickup all over the place to do it. But I do have that thermal now. If I've got something missing at night, and once again I used it last night, probably could have found them today. They were just out in the pasture laying down by themselves. There were 7 of them, I guess, but they didn't have any calves, which was good. They're some of my fall calving cows. But I was able to lead them back home after I got them found and get them put up. And I suppose the deer had knocked down the fence. It was an electric fence. They got out on a little bit of my fall planted ground, and then the gate was open, and they went down the road about 3/4 of a mile and got in a native grass field. So I've also got some bucks on here that I filmed this last year. They were in the middle of the rut, right here about the 10th to the 15th of November. I actually filmed this buck for about 20 minutes before he stood up, but he headed right over there to that was actually a button buck that walked up there, and he wanted to run him off. This was a guy who called me and said he had shot a buck and needed some help tracking one, so I went out there and was able to get on that one there and get him brought back. Made him stand up. I didn't bring him back anywhere, but I was able to get back with the guy. He found a little bit of blood. We were able to confirm that deer there was definitely not hit by him. And you know, these drones have come in handy for wildlife. They've also come in handy for agriculture. If anybody's interested in getting one, of course, I'm not the guy who sells them, but mine is a DJI Mini Pro 4 and a Autel. I have to get the numbers off of that. It's a V3 with the thermal. It's also, you don't always have to use thermal, but that is what it does. Now, last week, I mentioned to you that if anybody had harvested a deer, make sure and send it in to me. I would try and get it on the live stream. There was about 4 different people who did. Want to get on those. So one buck, I'm looking here, was Michael Boyd. Look at this guy. Velvet, drop tines on both sides. And Michael told me that the buck, he come from southeast Oklahoma and did not have a normal set of testicles. I shot one years ago. It's up here. I'm going to grab it. Hang on. This is a wild looking creature. I shot this thing years ago. It's got these points on it all over the place. It was in velvet year round. We had about 7 to 8 years worth of trail cam pictures off of this guy. Whenever I did harvest him, I just did a European mount on it, as you can see, and then all the velvet, as you're doing that European mount, it leaves, but no testicles on this dude either. That's probably the primary reason that they stayed in velvet pretty much year round. Mine, some people would consider it a cactus buck. The buck that Michael Boyd got down there in southeast Oklahoma doesn't really look like a cactus buck to me. His rack grew somewhat normal other than those really cool drop tines. So congratulations, Michael. Great buck there. Also got a buck that come up here close to home. Kyle Wagner. You notice there's 2 there in the screen. They were still in velvet there. There he got slick horned. And there is the trophy pick with Kyle. So nice buck, Kyle. The good news is there's still 1 buck left there, and I'm hopeful that Kyle will invite me to go hunt with him. I don't know if I can get that lucky or not, but Kyle and I are about 10 miles apart. Gary's Fishing Channel, that looks like your hair in the morning. Maybe all of us have hair that looks that way in the morning. Yeah. But yeah, weird buck for sure. Really cool buck that Michael got. I don't know if Michael's tuned in here watching or not. But if I'm curious if Michael was going to, if you mount them like that, you've got to pay extra. They've got to do some stuff with the velvet to keep it from leaving. Lynn Farm Okie. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, Lynn Farm Okie. Where are you all from? What part of Oklahoma are you from, I should say? But the Michael Boyd buck, that's one of them I wanted to show you guys. I already showed you the Kyle Wagner buck. There was, let me think here. One of them was Baker, and that came fairly close up here as well. I am not seeing it right now. There we go. So they had trail cam pictures of him. And then Baker's the young man. That's his dad, Sloan. And there's Baker with one of those hero shots. And there is Baker and his dad, Sloan, both. That buck came from about 10 miles away from me as well. Really nice buck. I think Baker might be 8 years old. And I've got one more buck to show here. Let me get it found. I know Baker took a buck last year as well. Got a Montgomery buck on here that come from southeast Oklahoma down towards Poto. And congratulations to this youngster. That was his first buck. And wait till you see this shot right here. Crossbow, right in the pump station. Blood is pouring out of him. And he goes down right out of the screen. Got him retrieved. It's a great deal whenever you get to see him go down. Let me get right back. Now, October the 14th, this is one thing I wanted to show you on the deer right here. You see this doe. This is the day after the rain, midnight, 3 in the morning. And then less than a minute later, you see this buck coming in there. He's smelling all around. And that tells me some of these whitetails are starting to think about a little bit of breeding action. Now, it still might be a couple of weeks away. That puts us at November the 1st. Got to read some of these comments right here. Fear not, farm. My understanding is that usually when they stay in velvet like that and don't shed their antlers, they have some kind of testosterone. Yes. He said it only had one testicle, and he said it was little bitty on that Michael Boyd buck. Yeah, and the one that I got years ago, once again, in case anybody's just joining, this one was full velvet for years, did not have any testicles. So the Michael Boyd buck at least had normal looking antlers other than those drop tines, which was really, really cool. Back to November the 14th. I don't know how everybody else's cameras are. That was the day after the rain and the cooler weather here. I got to find what I'm wanting to show you here. That wasn't the only thing that started to change up here. Looking for it. I'm not able to find it right now. Unfortunately, but I had a big buck making a scrape, and that was, oh, there he is. I thought I loaded it on here. Once again, October the 14th. That's at 7:30 in the morning, about 3 hours after those other two. This is on a different property as well. But October the 14th, there was action starting. If it hasn't started yet in your neck of the woods, it will be soon. He done a good job. Hey there, Sloan. Tell Baker congratulations. Great buck. Is he 8 years old or 9? I couldn't remember. And I knew that he had taken at least one other buck. Sloan used to hunt on some land that I farmed, and his grandmother owned that land. But now Sloan hunts within about 10 to 25 miles of me, does a good job getting his kids out. Speaking of kids, there's a buck right back here behind me. You couldn't see him on the wall. See this 8-pointer? It's about 18, 19 inches wide. That is one of the youth season deer that my youngest son shot. Now that's been, he was probably 8, 9 years old at the time. Youth season here in Oklahoma is coming up this weekend. I put a video out last January. It was my last. I filled my tag. I talked a bunch about youth, how to get youth prepared whenever they're firing a gun. Main thing is let them get used to shooting a 22. They don't need to shoot something big and loud to begin with. Let them shoot a 22. Let them shoot a crossbow. Get them out there. Let them have fun. They're going to make some noise. That's part of it. But get those kids out there. And this weekend is the beginning of youth season. Let me think here. The 17th through the 19th, I believe, is those days. Yeah, 17th through the 19th is youth season. As long as they haven't turned 18 years old and they need an adult with them. I'm not for sure. I know the kids have to have a license. I would assume the adult have to, but I don't know that for a fact. Check all your local regulations. If you're just an archery hunter and you're not taking a kid this weekend, make sure you wear some orange. Got to have an orange cap or an orange vest. If you are out there in the woods trying to help a youth, the youth needs to be head garment and the vest. There is a chance of rain this weekend up here in northwest Oklahoma. Those cool downs get these deer up on their feet. I hate to admit, but last Monday, whenever I went, like I said, I was pumped up, 25-degree cooler temperatures. I was sitting there thinking, it's going to be good. And I went to the stand. I walked in there with excitement. This was on the 13th. So I showed you those two videos of the 14th. Early in the morning on the 14th. The rain was on the 13th. As soon as I get in the stand, I'm expecting the rain to be quitting. It continued to rain. I saw one squirrel. I did have a good time sitting there thinking about all the good times we're going to have this fall, and it was nice not to be in the tractor, not to be doing work, and know that all of our farmland was getting a good beneficial rain on it. My son Carter did go. He went to a different farm. He saw at least 3 bucks. One of the ones he was wanting to take come in about 40 yards from him. Didn't give him the best shot. There we go with a couple more comments. I really need to do a youth muzzleloader video before muzzleloader. So Dakota, are you going to take your youth, one of your kids out and let them use a muzzleloader during youth season? Is that what you're saying? And Lynn Farm Okie, are you out by Hardknack Farms? Hardknack? I have not heard of Hardknack Farms. I am in between Enid and Fairview, Oklahoma. But I don't know about Hardknack Farms. Back to that evening after the 13th. We come up to the 14th, and I didn't show you everything, but I had 3 different bucks on one farm that I hadn't got all year long. A few other farms, I had multiple bucks over the night. I've got cameras set up near water. I've got cameras set up on scrapes, and I had many new bucks show up October the 14th after a cool front, after a rain. I hope that's working that way for everybody else too. I know I already showed you that school land. I call him the school land buck because he was on a property of school land whenever I filmed him. I did show you the other buck that was laying down. I've got another one to show you here if I can just get it found. This buck was my son Garrett's. And this was once again with that mini drone. It was the 4 Pro. I saw this buck for about 3 weeks. I would see him while I was feeding cattle. Then I would get about a half mile or so from him, put my drone in the air. This buck was on his feet all the time looking for does. My son Garrett ended up taking him, and that was in rifle season that he took him. Right here he is about a week before rifle season. I saw him chasing a doe across 1 mile line. It was open farmland. He chased her all the way to the next farm and run her over on the neighbors. But I got that drone in the air. I got some really cool footage with him. I just didn't use that footage in any other videos, and I had them here on my computer. Wanted to show them to you guys. So the Fear Not Farm, Dakota says, for my kids, I load 80 grains of powder, 185 to 200 grain Hornady, pistol bullet, super low recoil. From my research, 30 to 40% less recoil than traditional loads. So you're using 80 grains of powder. Dakota, I started years ago, just because it simplified things, I started buying the 50, the little pellets, 50 at a time. And if I was loading it for my kids to shoot 50 yards or less, I just put 1 in there. If I was loading it for myself to shoot out there in the 100 yard range, I put 2. So I was using 100 grains of powder. I was using a 260 grain Hornady though, so I was putting some more lead out there. But what I found, at 50 yards, they basically shoot the exact same. You're just losing some velocity. Hardknack Farms is from Northwest Oklahoma. Okay, I'm not familiar where they're at or who they are. I'll check into that after the video. It very well might be somebody that I know, I just not recognize the name. Lynn, he's a little over an hour from her. Okay. So back to Jonathan at Covey Up. Jonathan's a bird hunter, likes to hunt some public lands. Jonathan and I met. I hope Jonathan's okay with me saying this, but we didn't meet on a very good day. Jonathan was running late to get to where he was going hunting. I was a little bit upset whenever we met, but I tell you what, Jonathan is a stand-up individual. Good man. I ended up taking him and his 2 boys to go harvest a couple of does in that, I call it Christmas season. The state calls it the holiday antlerless season. But October 16th was when things got really good for you the last 2 years in a spot that I know about. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've been up hunting it lately, Jonathan, but good luck whenever you get out there. So, Dakota, you had 2 of your boys get drawn to go to Sequoia. Muzzleloader hunt for this weekend. Real good hunt. But for the muzzleloader presence, yes, it does present a little challenge. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm not done yet. I've still got more, but I get to reading and then I forget where I'm at. But I won't go on too much further here. I think I showed you Garrett's buck as he was jumping that fence. And about a week later, Garrett went to hunt. Where that buck jumped the fence was about a mile away from where Garrett went to hunt. Garrett is my middle son, for those of you who don't know. He come home there for a few days right there around Thanksgiving. And I told him I'd been seeing that buck quite often. He wanted to try and go get after him. He sure could. And he saw him from the stand, couldn't make his mind up whether to take him or not. And about an hour later, he got down out of the stand and decided to kind of go walking through some of the grass. And he was able to find him with a doe. But Garrett's the one with all the orange. That's Carter with a hat there. And they got him found and took some hero shots. Nice, mature 9-point buck. He loved to be on his feet and was traveling looking for does. Like I say, nearly every day for 3 weeks I would see that buck. What's on the front of my hat? Oh, it's a bulldog for Drummond Bulldogs. Drummond, Oklahoma. It is a bulldog. Hopefully you can see it from looking down there. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope that some of you will give me a like. I'll be honest with you, I don't know looking on this platform. I am using OBS and it brings up a chat, but I have no idea how many people are watching. I have no idea if anybody's hit the like button or not, but I would appreciate it. It'd probably help keep my channel going and might get it out and show some more people as well. You're welcome. There's a $40 hat they were selling for the school for the baseball program. I believe it was $40. It might have just been $30. So I've showed you the 4 bucks, showed you the really good archery shot the young man, the Montgomery boy, was using. I'm going to go back to that one more time because I just thought it was fantastic. Right there, quartered away, couldn't ask for it any better. And you've already seen the hero shot with him. Went down just out of sight of the camera. Great to get those youngsters out there. Once again, youth season coming up this weekend. Be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Get them out there, have some fun. If they want to shoot a big buck, shoot a big buck. If they want to shoot a little buck, shoot a little buck. If they want to shoot a doe, shoot a doe. There's plenty of does. They taste good. And the fawns are roughly 6 months old right now. I personally kind of like to go till November the 1st before I start taking does. And come black powder season, I'm going to be doing it. Thank you, Rob. 8 likes. Am I going to give away deer jerky this year? I didn't do that last year there, Gary. I did some sort of a drawing that year, didn't I? You had to like the channel. You had to like it. You had to subscribe. And you had to pick the favorite gun that I had, didn't you? I might do something like that coming up this November. Free deer jerky giveaway. Jonathan, or Fear Not Farm, says to Jonathan, think you know where you've been hunting at? One night, a little bit late season, and boy was pleasantly surprised with the sign. Yeah, just couldn't zero in on any bucks. There's a prime time, and whenever the party's over, unfortunately. But, that's public land. It's tougher to hunt. And, everything can be tough, but a little bit of luck. A little bit of luck at times sure helps us all. So I've showed you the school line buck. I showed you Garrett's. Folks, I think that's about all that I had for tonight. I've only hunted once. I had a good set in light rain. I saw a squirrel. Wasn't prepared for exactly what I was going to see that night, but that's the way it went. I was sure hoping to see some deer. My son Carter did see 3 bucks, did not take a shot yet. I know I'll have him out there at least Saturday, probably Sunday as well, but Friday we've got some plans already made, so won't be able to hunt Friday. Black powder will be the following weekend. And so the next 10 days, there's going to be a lot of things changing in the whitetail world. I'm glad you caught up here on the live as well. Thank you very much for joining. I've got lots of other videos out there about cows. I've got videos about cows. I've got videos about fishing. I've got videos about hunting. And Lynn Farm, I plan on doing this every Wednesday night throughout deer season for sure. I just kind of want to give some updates about how it's going here. Somebody in southeastern portion of the state, things could be a week different. Unfortunately, in today's world, we do not have hunter check stations like we used to. I used to love going to those hunter check stations. I'd go there nearly every night. Everybody else was drinking coffee. I was drinking a cold Dr. Pepper, and I was hearing everybody's deer stories and jumping right in there with some that I was able to get as well. I just thought this might be a good deal to let some people show off their bucks. If they want to send me, and I don't care if they shoot a doe. Whatever they're proud of that they shot, big, small, send it to me. I'll get it put in next week's video. Fear Not Farm. I think if you knew exactly where they bred, you could hunt them late season. That's probably right. Yeah. But you would be tied to whatever is a resident. Yep. On public land. Yep. And they get to where their breeding's over. They still might have it on their mind, but they have run for weeks and they need to get some food back in their belly. And do I grow winter wheat? Actually, I plant everything to rye right now. We are in some sandier soils. You get 10 miles about any direction from me, and the soil gets a little bit harder. I've been seeing quite a bit of quail too, Rob. Back to the wheat. I plant rye. I have planted wheat at times, but our sand does not grow it as well as it does rye. We've usually got a good rye market as well, and I can graze it with my cows in the winter and the spring as well. Always harvest some as well. You've been seeing a lot of quail. I have too, Rob. I think our quail population has at least doubled or tripled the last few years. We went through many, many years of dry weather that I didn't hardly see any, but the last few years I've seen a lot. You got both of the doe hides tanned. Okay, Jonathan, got both your doe hides tanned for the boys to keep and remember those Christmas season hunts. They both came back from taxidermists last month. Always be grateful for that memory. Jonathan, I had a blast too. I'm glad to spend some time with you and your boys as well. You wish they'd go back to check stations, Dakota. So do I. People said, and I was one of them, I said, well, they quit doing check stations. It'll be easier for somebody to poach a deer now. Game warden said, well, there's no difference. It's an honesty policy. If you weren't going to check a deer in the first place, you're still not going to check the deer in. So I guess in a sense that's right. But, now you check them in on the internet, but and maybe there's less deer poached now than there was. I don't know. But everybody was used to going to the check stations. I guess if they were a poacher, they probably weren't going to the check station. And I guess if they're a poacher today, they're probably not turning them in online. You want to know if does rye make a little bit less per bushel than wheat? Because I've seen some of the elevators, sometimes price per bushel will be significantly higher than wheat. Yet, in this sand, the rye, a pretty good rye crop will do 30, a really, really good one will do 40. I'd like to say mine's probably average 20 throughout the years. I have never paid a penny's worth of insurance on any crop throughout all my years of farming. I've had it held out, and you still want to harvest it and get what you can and it make 5 or 10. I've had it not get held out and had it making the low 30s on my best years. I've had a lot of it making right around the 20s. But sometimes that rye will be worth almost double of what wheat is. So that'd be like cutting 40 bushel wheat, and very rarely could we raise 40 bushel wheat here. More like 20 to 30 bushel wheat in these farms that I have. Yeah. Well, Dakota, if you're taking those boys to Sequoia, I believe that's what I read earlier. Have fun with them. Stay safe. Let us know how you do. And folks, if you've been seeing on here, I said this last week. Dakota and his wife, they put out quite a few videos about farm related stuff. They've also got some hunting videos. They haven't been putting as many out lately. Dakota told me that he from buying a new place, they've kind of been they moved. They haven't got their old place sold, and things have been just a little bit tough. Thank you, Sloan. Get those kids out there. I want to see some more whitetails on the ground. And thank you for the video or the pictures of you and your boy, Sloan. Once again, congratulations. We'll be here again next Wednesday night. Hopefully, I've had a little bit more luck hunting myself by then. The reason I say it makes it easier because you can head to the house. You've got 24 hours to check it in and can have second thoughts about the buck you harvested and decide not to check it in. Dakota, I agree with that completely. I know how I do it, and that buck's getting checked in. That doe's getting checked in. I suppose there's people that take that risk, and I hope they get caught if they're not willing to check it in. And, I used to think whenever a game warden or anybody said, well, they didn't have to check it in at the check-in station. They could have just taken it home. I really didn't agree with that for years, but thinking about it, if they weren't going to check it in online after they took it home, once they got that deer home years ago, they really didn't have to check it in either then. They avoided seeing everybody at the check station. They got it home. If they didn't want to turn it in, I guess they just didn't turn it in. But there's good and bad folks all over the world, and hopefully the vast majority of them are honest. The deer are a precious resource to me. And thanks, Sloan. I'm going to need it. I didn't see a single deer my first time out. You know me. I kind of like to watch deer, but it was a good time out there. Folks, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that like button if you will. I'll see you next Wednesday. If I put one on the ground or Carter does, I would... Dakota, that's funny. Thank you for not being an insurance farmer. Yes, sir. Never paid a penny's worth of insurance on cropland. And my grandpa told me many, many, many years ago, if you believe in the good Lord, you don't need insurance. I think he's probably been right most of the time, but there's several of us that believe in the good Lord and still have insurance as well. I just haven't done it on crops. Thank you, Lynn Farm. And everybody, you can share this video on Facebook. You can share it however you can. If you got somebody else interested next week, have them tune in as well. Thanks again. I'm going to turn it off, and good luck to everybody hunting, farming, fishing. Stay safe.